माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदना ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदना ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदना ब्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, third chapter, titled Pure Devotional Service, text number 20. Bile batorukrama vikramanye na shrinvata karnapute narasya jihva sati dardurike vasuta न चोपगायत्युरुगाय गाताः बिले बतोरुक्रमविक्रमान्ये न शृण्वत कर्णपुटे नरस्य जिह्वा सती दार्दुरिके वसूत न चोपगायत्युरुगाय गाताः बिलेबतोरुक्रमविक्रमान्ये न शृण्वत कर्णपुटे नरस्य जिह्वा सतीदार्दुरिकेव सूत न चोपगायत्युरुगाय गाताः बिलेबतोरुक्रमविक्रमान्ये न शृण्वत कर्णपुटे नरस्य तीव्दार्दुरिकेव सूत न चोपगायत्युरुगाय गाताः बिलेबतोरुक्रमविक्रमान्ये न शृण्वत कर्णपुटे नरस्य जिह्वा सतीदार्दुरिकेव सूत न चोपगायत्युरुगाय गाताः बिलेबतोरुक्रमविक्रमान्ये न शृण्वत कर्णपुटे नरस्य जिह्वा सतीदार्दुरिकेव सूत न चोपगायत्युरुगाय गाताः. माताजी. बिलेबतोरुक्रमविक्रमान्ये न शृण्वत कर्णपुटे नरस्य जिह्वा सतीदार्दुरिकेव सूत न चोपगायत्युरुगाय गाताः. Word to word meanings. Bile, snake holes. Bata, like. Urukrama, the Lord who acts marvelously. Vikraman, prowess. Ye, all these. Na, never. Shrinvataha, heard. Karnapute, the ear holes. Narasya, of the man. Jihva, tongue. Asati, useless. Dardurika, of the frogs. Eva, exactly like that. Suta, O Suta Goswami. Na, never. Cha, also. Upagayati, chants loudly. Urugaya, worth singing. Gataha, songs. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. One who has not listened to the message about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead and has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes and a tongue like the tongue of a frog. Purport. Devotional service to the Lord is rendered by all limbs or parts of the body. It is the transcendental dynamic force of the spirit soul. Therefore, a devotee is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord. One can engage in devotional service when the senses of the body are purified in relation with the Lord. And one can render service to the Lord with the help of all the senses. As such, the senses and the action of the senses are to be considered impure or materialistic as long as they are employed only in sense gratification. The purified senses are engaged not in sense gratification but in the service of the Lord in toto. The Lord is the supreme with all senses, and the servitor, who is part and parcel of the Lord, also has the same senses. Service to the Lord is the completely purified use of the senses as described in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord imparted instructions with full senses, and Arjuna received them with full senses, and thus there was a perfect exchange of sensible and logical understanding between the master and the disciple. Spiritual understanding is nothing like an electrical charge from the master to the disciple, as foolishly claimed by some propaganda mongers. Everything is full of sense and logic, and the exchange of views between the master and disciple is possible only when the reception is submissive and real. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one should receive the teaching of Lord Chaitanya with intellect and full senses so that one can logically understand the great mission. In the impure state of the living being, the various senses are fully engaged in mundane affairs. If the ear is not engaged in the service of the Lord, by hearing about Him from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, certainly the holes of the ear will be filled with some rubbish. Therefore, the messages of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam should be preached all over the world very loudly. That is the duty of a pure devotee who has actually heard about them from the perfect sources. Many want to speak something or other, but because they are not trained to speak on the subject matter of Vedic wisdom, they are all speaking nonsense, and people are receiving them with no sense. There are hundreds and thousands of sources for distributing mundane views of the world, and people of the world are also receiving it. Similarly, the people of the world should be taught to hear the transcendental topics of the Lord, and the devotee of the Lord must speak loudly so that they can hear. The frogs loudly croak, with the result that they invite the snakes to eat them. The human tongue is especially given for chanting the Vedic hymns and not for croaking like frogs. The word asati used in this verse is also significant. Asati means a woman who has become a prostitute. A prostitute has no reputation for good womanly qualities. Similarly, the tongue which is given to the human being for chanting the Vedic hymns will be considered a prostitute when engaged in chanting some mundane nonsense. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, in this particular section of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shaunakadi Rishis are trying to inspire Suta Goswami to speak further subject matter because it seems like more or less Suta Goswami had answered Shaunakadi Rishi's questions, but it looks like they answered very briefly. And Shaunakadi Rishis are sort of concerned that, oh, we came here to hear the whole narration of what conversation that happened between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadeva Goswami, but it looks like Suta Goswami has sort of condensed it. So they request him to speak more, and in that series they say that, oh, the ears which are not utilized in hearing Krishna Katha are like snake holes. The tongue which is not utilized in glorifying Krishna Katha are like tongues of a frog. Like that, they describe every limb which is not utilized in the service of Krishna is a waste of human birth. Just to indicate that we are here for a very specific purpose of hearing Krishna Katha, and you are here for the purpose of narrating it. So please do not cut corners, and summarize. We are not here to hear summary. We are here to hear elaborately about the conversation that happened between Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So kindly narrate. So, very interesting purport Srila Prabhupada writes here. Prabhupada writes, devotional service to the Lord is rendered by all limbs or parts of the body. All limbs. It is the transcendental dynamic force of the spirit soul. Therefore, a devotee is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord. And then later Srila Prabhupada says, as such, the senses and the action of the senses are to be considered impure or materialistic as long as they are employed only in sense gratification. The purified senses are not engaged in sense gratification, but in the service of the Lord in toto. So Prabhupada says. Very interesting. So let's try to understand this, because Srila Rupa Goswami, in defining pure devotional service, he defines it as Anyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. See, he talks about 4 characteristics of pure devotional service. Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. One should have no other goal other than the goal to please Krishna and establish a relationship with Krishna. Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. And in order to attain that, one's practice should not be mixed with Jnana, Karma, Yoga, etc. Anukulyena. And it should be performed with a pleasing attitude towards Krishna, with proper understanding of Krishna's supremacy. And then he says, Anushilanam. Anushilanam, he describes as, there are many explanations of this. One explanation which the Acharyas give is, continuous service or emotions directed towards Krishna or his expansions or others related to him. So, these 4 characteristics are there. Today we will talk about one of those aspects and one part of that aspect, which is Anu. And Anu in Anushilanam is described by the Acharyas in different ways. 3 prominent meanings are given, which is relevant to today's verse, which Srila Prabhupada is talking about, engagement of the senses in toto. Okay. So, Anu can mean, the meaning that Srila Prabhupada gives is to follow in the footsteps of the Acharyas. So, one should practice the Shilanam, the engagement of the services, engagement of the senses in the service of Krishna, should be following in the footsteps of the Acharyas. So, Anu there means Anugata, following. But there is one more meaning that is given, which is Anurupa, appropriate. I mean, according to one's practice, So this Shilanam is followed in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya in a different way, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya in a different way. So it is Anurupa, to the mood. That is another meaning of Anu in Anushilanam. But the third meaning of Anu, which is mentioned by Srila Jiva Goswami, is continuous. Anukalam. Continuous. So, and then he says, this Anushilanam can be either Cheshta Rupa or Bhava Rupa. Cheshta means engagement of mind, body, and words. Mind, body, and words. So it indicates continuous action of mind, body, and words, but it may not have any bhava. Spiritual emotions may not be there, but there is a spiritual goal to please Krishna. So this refers to sadhana bhakti. And bhava rupa anushilanam indicates continuous actions of mind, body, and words in the service of Krishna, but with spiritual emotions, bhava. So now, this sounds like an almost impossible definition actually, for many reasons, but we will see one reason because of the usage of the word anu, which means continuous. Okay. So if Uttama Bhakti has to be continuous engagement, then practically it sounds very impossible. Because, and interestingly, so which means practically, which we may say that, okay, Uttama Bhakti is not possible for us because continuous engagement is not possible. But very interestingly, Srila Rupa Goswami says that this Uttama Bhakti can be practiced in 3 different stages: Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. So now this is literally quite head scratching. If it is continuous, how is such a continuous engagement even possible in Sadhana Bhakti? It's not possible. So are we even practicing Sadhana Bhakti? That is a very big question mark actually, right? So how can Sadhana Bhakti be Uttama? So where is the continuity here? This question arises. Okay. Therefore, one popular understanding is that we are actually not practicing Uttama Bhakti only. For one very specific reason, where is the continuity? Where is the continuity of engagement of mind and senses? Or even mind or senses? Or at least senses? Is there continuity? But Srila Rupa Goswami says very clearly, Sadhana Bhakti is Uttama Bhakti. I mean, how could he present it this way when he has presented a seemingly impossible meaning of anu to mean continuous? He defines Sadhana Bhakti as Kriti Sadhya Bhavet Sadhya Bhavasa Sadhana Vida Nitya Siddhasya Bhavasya Prakatyam Hridi Sadhyata. What is Sadhana Bhakti? Kriti Sadhya, engagement of mind and senses in the service of Krishna. Sadhya Bhavasa Sadhana Vida, so that one can achieve the goal of Bhava. Sa Sadhana Vida. Such an engagement is Sadhana Bhakti. And that Bhakti should be Anushilanam, continuous engagement. Right? So, and in giving a proof, scriptural proof for this, he quotes this verse, which is again a little bit scary. Smartavya satatam vishnor vismartavyo na jatuchit sarve vidhi nishedyasyur etayor eva kinkara. Right? Smartavya satatam vishnor. One should always remember Vishnu and one should never forget him. All the other rules and regulations are subservient to this one rule. Now we may say, Smartavya satatam is sadhana bhakti. So which means literally, even right here when we are, maybe while I am speaking on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, I can say for sure 100% of the time I am not thinking of Krishna. I mean, sometimes I am thinking, sometimes I am not. So, and the same may hold good while hearing also. So if this is while we are actively engaged in hearing and chanting, so how is sadhana bhakti even possible? And a very interesting explanation of satatam, Srila Jiva Goswami gives in his explanation. This is the crux. Please hear this carefully. Srila Jiva Goswami says, satatam means every day, not every second. Why? He says, since continuous remembrance would be impossible to do in sadhana bhakti, this would produce loss of faith in the rules of bhakti, because they would be impossible to follow. So satatam should be understood in, this is one particular way in which Srila Rupa Goswami says satatam means at least to start with every day. Or dhyayan stuvam tasya yashas trisandhyam, at least 3 times a day. Remember the spiritual master. And then gradually increase that remembrance. So satatam is the explanation that is given here is every day and not every moment, because that would be impossible for a sadhaka. And if something impossible is prescribed as a sadhana, it would lead to loss of faith in the process of bhakti only. So therefore, this explanation of satatam, at least for sadhakas, is little bit relieving. Okay, there is some hope. Why? Because if you see throughout the day, we are engaged in various kinds of activities. Right now, we are engaged in direct devotional practice, hearing and chanting. Bhakti poshaka karma, right? This is directly nourishing to our devotion. Sometimes we also have to engage in activities which is loka sangraha karma. Some activities which we may have to perform, not necessarily that we have to do it as a part of our sadhana, but so that we have to set the right example for others. Generic gentlemanly behavior, or when it comes to the certain Vedic practices like Sharda and other such things, sometimes we may have to do it for loka sangraha purpose, to set the right example for others. Third, we engage in occupational karma. Some of you, after this Bhagavatam class, you may change yourself to pant and shirt and go for engaging in your occupation. So now if you say that while you are engaging in occupation, you are not directly engaged in Krishna conscious service, so it is not anushilanam. So therefore, as long as you are a grihastha and you are working, it is impossible for you to practice uttama bhakti. It will become like that. So we are engaged in occupational karma. Another thing, which is another activity which we engage in, is sleeping, where there is no conscious engagement of mind or senses in any of the devotional activities. So if you take anu to mean anukshana engagement, there is neither engagement of mind nor the senses in the devotional activities while we are sleeping. And we are engaging in activities for daily bodily maintenance, during which also, while eating, or of course eating, we do honor prasadam, which is definitely prasada seva, is one of the limbs of devotional service. But there are so many other things that we do for bodily maintenance. Expelling waste from our body. We need to maintain our body by, on a regulated basis, expelling waste also. That is bodily maintenance. And sixth is firefighting, dealing with anarthas. Sometimes lust creeps up, sometimes anger, greed, illusion, pride, and impelled by those forces, sometimes we end up engaging in certain activities as sadhakas. So in most of these activities, there may not be direct engagement of mind and senses in Krishna's service. Direct service. So does it mean that we are part-time devotees, or you can say mixed devotees, because there is no continuous engagement? Okay. No, it's not. That's not the way we should understand. Like say, for example, someone may introduce, Prabhuji is an employee of IOCL, Indian Oil Corporation. Oh, so I may ask, oh, you mean part-time employee? He said, no, full-time employee. Then what are you doing here? If you are full-time employee, you should be full-time employed in IOCL, right? So why are you here? If you are a full-time employee. So full-time employee means 8 hours I am supposed to log in. Part-time means 4 hours, right? So, so even in a mundane sense, the terminologies full-time and part-time have, a contextual meaning. They're not always used in their absolute sense. And in the scriptures also it's like that. For example, anartha nivritti. So anartha nivritti, the stage anartha nivritti, if you see, does it mean after anartha nivritti there are no anarthas? No. At the stage of nishtha also there is some anarthas. So there anartha nivritti means prayiki anartha nivritti. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. So Uh, so, so it means almost all the anarthas are gone, not completely gone. So the scriptures use terminologies in actually a relative sense many times, not in a very absolute sense. And most importantly, Srila Rupa Goswami says 9 stages of Uttama Bhakti. So in 9 stages of Uttama Bhakti, Adau Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Tata Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Navritti, Nishta Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema. Okay. So in talking about the stage of Bhajana Kriya, which is also actually a stage of Uttama Bhakti, he says, which means, and then what is this Bhajana Kriya? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Madhurya Kadambini describes here Bhajana Kriya means Anishtita Bhajana Kriya. Unsteady devotional service. Unsteady means what? Non-continuous devotional service. Okay. And he describes there are many stages of unsteady devotional service. Utsahamayi, Ghanatarala, Vyuda Vikalpa, Vishaya Sangara, Niyamakshama, Tarangarangini. Like that he describes 6 stages. Okay. Where one's practice is unsteady. It is not continuous. Okay. So he says, and in all these stages, they possess faith. Adau Shraddha. Okay. Faith means what? Faith in the process of bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. These are the 9 stages, these are the 9 practices which I should practice for my own spiritual nourishment. Faith in the practice. Faith in the literatures, in the Bhakti Shastras, this Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. These are the pramanas through which I can improve. Faith in the Vaishnavas. If I have to progress, I have to take their association. And faith in the parampara. So the knowledge coming in this parampara is bona fide. So this is faith. So one starts with this faith. But even despite having this faith, one's practice may be unsteady due to various reasons. And we see that in our own life. Right? So he says, first is Utsahamayi, the stage of false confidence. In the beginning stages, when one comes to Krishna consciousness, he gets the mala, and sometimes out of some, initial enthusiasm, he may end up chanting 16 rounds on the first day only. So then he may think that, oh, one day only 16 rounds, which means, next week I may chant even 32 rounds, which means in a month, I may chant even 64 rounds. And they are glorifying Srila Haridas Thakur for 192 rounds every day. Looks like in a few months it may be possible for me also. Utsahamayi. But in a few days he realizes that he does not even want to pick up the beat bag. Ho gaya both. 16 rounds, Prabhuji, for initiation only 16 rounds is the criteria. I am not initiated anyway. Last few days I chanted 16, 16, 32 also I chanted. Today, ek din chutti. I have made up for it. He may think like that. So that is the next stage, Ghana Tarala. Ghana Tarala means, initially I thought 16 will become 32 in a week, 64 in a month, 192 in a year. That was false confidence. So Ghana Tarala means coming in terms with reality, where actually Ghana Tarala. Ghana means thick and Tarala means thin. Thick and thin, thick and thin, thick and thin. That is what is my practice. That is reality. The original confidence was false confidence. Like I remember in our residential school, we used to have everyday morning physical training. Every Saturday we used to have cross-country running, marathon. 10 kilometers or something we have to run. So, you will see in the beginning of the year, the new joinees, in the 6th grade, they join. So, on the first Saturday or in the first 1 or 2 Saturdays, you will see as soon as they say go, they will start sprinting. And all the seniors will be very slowly jogging. And these people will be looking around their shoulders. Arey wah. Huh? In the first half a kilometer only, I have a 200-meter edge over all my seniors, which means it looks like by the time they finish half the marathon, we would have finished it. But they realize after 1 kilometer, their marathon is over. They have exhausted all their energy. So then in the meantime, slowly they are like, the seniors are jogging and they pass by. And these people are like puffing and panting. In 1 kilometer only their marathon is over. So then they realize, oh, that was false confidence. So then comes Ghana Tarala, which is coming in terms with reality. That actually, my real capacity is up and down, up and down, up and down only. But then he realizes, this up and down is not good. I want some steadiness in my practice. So how do I get that steadiness? So then he searches for reasons for unsteadiness. So in a spiritually immature state or less mature state, when we look for reasons, we find external reasons only. So he finds, you know what, why I am not able to steadily practice? Because my office is too far away from my home. And I spend too much time traveling. And by the time I come back, I am so tired. And my sleep does not get complete. And therefore, I doze off. So my japa does not get over. Or maybe, I am not in the right kind of job. That's why I'm always in an agitated sense. Maybe if I change my job, I will have some steadiness in my practice. Or maybe I'm in the wrong ashram only. Why this whole janjat of, earning and taking care and all that. Maybe if I join the brahmachari ashram, Ekeha Kurunandana, very steady practice of devotional service. So in this way, when he is deliberating upon why there is unsteadiness, he finds all kind of external reasons. If I adjust this, I will adjust this, I will adjust this, then everything will be perfect. I will be able to practice. Twayi me ananya vishaya matir madhupate asakrit. Steadily like Ganga, my mind will flow towards Krishna like that. And he does make those adjustments. And after some time realizes that my devotional service is still unsteady. Then he realizes why. Then when he thinks about why, he realizes, actually my mind and senses are very uncontrolled. That is the stage of Vishaya Sangara, where he says, somehow I will control my mind and senses and engage them in Krishna consciousness. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and the 4th day, there is a went out, there is some indulgence. And then he realizes, no, this is not good. So again, he starts. So this tussle of going back and forth is the Vishaya Sangara. And unsteadiness is caused due to the uncontrolled senses. Then when he attains some fairly good kind of control over that, then he comes to the next stage, which is called as Niyama Akshama, where he starts, okay, let me now increase my chanting. I will chant a few extra rounds every day. I will every day, without missing, hear Chaupati Bhagavatam class. Like that. He may start taking certain vows, which he may start following, but after some time, it becomes slack. He is not able to follow. So that is called as Niyama Akshama. He may become fairly proficient in that also. Very steady devotee. So when you are very steady, everyone starts observing. And they will start appreciating. And they will start glorifying. And they will start giving some positions and some facilities. And we may start kind of coasting in that. Taranga Rangini, this stage is called as, Taranga is waves, coasting along in the waves of puja la pratishta, which may take our time and our continuous engagement in Krishna consciousness, that may take that away. So in this way, this is the third stage of Uttama Bhakti, where 6 types of unsteadiness is described. Okay. So forget about engagement in occupational duties, or forget about engagement in Loka Sangraha Karma. Forget about engagement in activities for our bodily maintenance. Even in engagement in direct devotional service, there are these continuity breakers in various forms, which is described as Utsahamayi, Ganatarala, Vyuda Vikalpa, Vishaya Sangara, Niyamakshama, Tarangarangini, these 6 types. So where is the continuity? So even though Srila Rupa Goswami seems to describe Anushilanam, but he sort of gives a provision that, it can be unsteady devotional service, where there is no continuity of engagement of senses. So now the question is, so in all these types of Anishtita Bhajana Kriya, what exactly is steady or continuous, which had prompted Srila Rupa Goswami to define Uttama Bhakti as Anushilanam and include Sadhana Bhakti in Uttama Bhakti also? How is it possible? So what is steady? If you see in sadhakas, we all are sadhakas, and most of us, I think, may agree immediately that our practice is not continuous, and the rest may agree after some contemplation that yes, our practice is not continuous. But in all this discontinuous practice, there is something which is steady. There are some aspects which are steady, which is what he is actually talking about. What is that? Shraddha. Our faith is steady. Even while succumbing to, unfavorable activities, our faith in bhakti does not change. Our faith in the acharyas does not change. Our faith in the association of Vaishnavas does not change. Our faith in the Bhakti Shastras does not change. So that Shraddha is constant. Our goal is constant. Someone may succumb to some activity of sense gratification. So even that devotee, he will agree that my goal is to go to Goloka Vrindavan. But मतलब ये करने से आप गोलोक वृंदावन जा सकते हैं. If by engaging in sense gratification, will you go to Goloka Vrindavan? But you said that your goal is Goloka Vrindavan. Yes, but what to do? Oh, थोड़ा इंद्रिय को नियंत्रण कर नहीं पाया. I could not control my senses. The third thing which is constant is willingness to engage in continuous devotional service. That is constant. Even during non-engagement in Krishna conscious activities, there is the willingness to engage in constant devotional service is constant. Isn't it? So, is there anyone, while all of us may agree that I am not continuously engaging in Krishna's service, but when asked, do you at least want to engage continuously in Krishna's service? I think all of us will agree on that point. Yes, I wish to engage, but I am unable to engage because of various reasons. Okay. So therefore, continuous does not indicate the practitioner's capability to engage continuously, but continuous indicates his willingness to engage continuously. Because if you define continuous to mean capability, it is possible only at the stage of bhava and prema. So which means it would make all the previous stages as not Uttama Bhakti. And that is not how Srila Rupa Goswami defines. Rupa Goswami says Sadhana Bhakti is also Uttama Bhakti. Right? So, therefore, and even while we are engaging in ordinary bodily activities for bodily maintenance, Anushilanam is accomplished. How? This is described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He quotes this verse in Bhagavatam commentary, in one of his Bhagavatam commentary. He says, Utsargan mala mutrades chitta swastyam yato bhavet. Ataha payur upastasta tad aradhana sadhanam. So this is a verse from a book called Vishnu Rahasya. He quotes this verse in one of his commentary. He says, the point is how during engagement in apparently basic mundane bodily activities also one can perform sadhana bhakti. He says, chitta swastyam yato bhavet. Because one maintains a healthy state of mind. Chitta swastya. How? Utsargan. By excreting mala mutra adehe. If regulated excretion of stool and urine is not there, it affects the mind, right? Because if there is stoppage of proper clearance, then it affects the apana vayu. Apana vayu affects the prana vayu, and prana vayu affects the mind. So chitta swastya, healthy functioning of mind, depends to some extent or to a good extent on proper regulated expelling of our waste. Ataha, therefore, payur upastasta, the anus and the urinary organ, tad aradhana sadhanam, should be considered as senses engaged in sadhana bhakti. So, you see that continuity there. So, the Acharyas had a very evolved understanding of continuity. So, when taken from a very superficial point of view, continuity seems impossible. And such impossible prescription the scriptures would never give. Because it would be scriptures always understand the position of the sadhakas and they encourage gradual elevation only. So therefore, Anu in Anushilanam refers to continuity in faith, continuity in willingness to practice continuously, and continuity in one's goal, and continuity in one's bhajaneshu spruha. Spruha means a desire. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds one more stage in the 9 stages that Srila Rupa Goswami gives. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds a few more stages to clarify further. Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. Before Bhajana Kriya, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds one more stage. He calls it Bhajaneshu Spriha, means a desire to engage in Krishna conscious activities, which means he has not even started to engage in Krishna conscious activities. Even then it is Anushilanam. Because there is a continuity in his willingness. Even though there may be lot of obstructions in his capacity or capability to engage continuously. Right? So therefore, now someone may say, okay, what is the proof that Anu refers to steadiness or continuity in faith or goal or willingness, even in an apparent non-continuous devotional service? Okay, even in an apparent non-continuous devotional service, what is the proof? Is there any Shastric proof? You are saying Anu or continuous refers to continuity in faith, not continuity in engagement, actual engagement. So what is the proof? We will see the proof from Bhagavad Gita only. Okay. So 9th chapter, two verses we will see. One is, both are very famous verses. 9.30. Apichet su duracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak sadhu revasa mantavya samyak vyavasito hi saha. So in that, Krishna says, apichet, even if su duracharo, the most sinful person, okay, mam bhajate, he worships me. Ananya Bhak. With Ananya Bhak means with no other desire other than the desire to please Krishna. But who is he? Suduracharo. He is engaged in, he is a sinful person. But he has no other desire other than the desire to please Krishna. So Krishna says, Sadhureva samantavya. I consider that person to be my devotee. Why? Samyak vyavasito hisaha. Because he has fixed himself completely in me. No, completely in Krishna. Sudurachari. Are you talking about his past or present? Was he a past Sudurachari or a present Sudurachari? Krishna says present. Then what is the meaning of Samyak Vyavasito? He is completely fixed in me means what? So what is fixed? If his activities are not fixed, time and again he is going and engaging in some sinful activities, then what exactly is fixed? Okay. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti commenting on this verse, he says, my attachment to my devotee is my very nature. That attachment does not decrease even if the devotee commits wrong, for I make him come up to the highest standard. And then he gives a very extreme meaning of the word Sudurachari. Okay. He says, if someone with bad conduct, yeah, that we can understand. Some lust, some greed, some anger, some pride. But he says, what is the Sudurachari that Krishna is talking about? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, addicted to violence, addicted to thievery, addicted to adultery. But he worships me and worships no one except me, and does not follow any other process like karma and jnana, and has no desire other than my desire. He has no desire other than my desire, but still he is addicted to thievery, addicted to violence, and addicted to adultery. How is it possible? So which means he is engaging in them unwillingly due to the inertia of his conditioning. As Arjuna says, Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojitaha. So what is pushing me to act inappropriately in sinful activities even though I don't want to? If you don't want to, don't engage. Simple. But no, someone is pushing me unwillingly. That is the conditioning which he calls as kama. Kama yesha krodha yesha rajoguna samudbhavan. Like that. So, but then someone may say, tell Krishna, but look, Krishna he has such a bad conduct. How is he a devotee? How are you calling him a devotee? Krishna says, he is to be respected as a devotee because of his devotee qualities. Devotee qualities, he wants to worship me. It is a command. Not doing so is an offense. My order is the authority, Krishna says. But then the person who is objecting, he says, look, I am not an atheist. I am a theist. But I am just trying to understand. Let me try to understand. He is a Sudurachari and a devotee, right? So my understanding is, whenever he is engaging in Shravanam Kirtanam, he is your devotee. Whenever he is engaging in thievery, violence, adultery, he is a non-devotee. Correct? Is my understanding right? So Krishna says, no. He should be considered as a devotee in all his parts. You should not see his bad qualities at all. In the sense, Drishtair Swabhava Janitair Vapushascha Doshair, as Srila Rupa Goswami says in Nectar of Instruction. Why? Krishna gives a reason also. Samyak Vyavasitaha. He is completely convinced. So which means certain engagement which he is engaging in is acting out of his conviction. He is acting in those activities of adultery, thievery, etc. against his conviction. What is his conviction? His conviction is, I will go to hell for my sinful actions, which are hard to give up. But I will not give up dedicated worship of Krishna. Let me go to hell and suffer, but I will not give up dedicated worship of Krishna. Then Krishna says in the next verse, Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Very quickly, he becomes a righteous person. Shipram bhavati dharmatma. Shashwat shantim nigachati. And he becomes, gradually over a period of time, he becomes completely freed from all kinds of anarthas. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. O Arjuna, go and loudly proclaim that my devotees shall never perish. Again, the opponent is unwilling to let go of Krishna. So he asks Krishna, look Krishna, I accept. You may accept him as a devotee, but you said, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. I agree that he has bhakti, but when he offers you with devotion, it will also come along with his anarthas. Right? How can you accept the offerings of such a sinful person? How can you eat the food and drink offered by a heart which is contaminated by lust, anger, greed, etc.? How is it possible? Krishna says, very quickly he will become righteous. Shipram bhavati dharmatma. Actually, he uses the word bhavati. Bhavati means, is in present tense. So which means, it is not future tense. Which means, by remembering the Lord, one meaning of why present tense is used, the acharyas say, it is because by the process of bhakti, very quickly anartha nivritti happens. In order to indicate the quickness with which the anartha nivritti happens, he uses the present tense. That is one reason why he says bhavati. And he says there is repeated feeling of disgust and repentance while he is engaged in those activities. Or the present tense indicates that in the future he will develop righteousness fully, but even right now, that righteousness exists in a subtle form. Which means, even now righteousness exists in a subtle form. What is that subtle form? Willingness. Willingness not to engage in these abominable activities, and willingness to continuously engage only in Krishna's service. That is consistent. And he gives an example. After taking medicine, even though the destructive effects of fever or poison remain for some time, it is not considered seriously. Thus, with the entrance of bhakti, which means with the entrance of faith, adav shraddha, in his mind, his sinful actions are not taken seriously because shipram bhavati dharmatma. Okay. So, and then he ends the purport with a very beautiful line. Please hear this carefully because this is very much connected to the theme that we are discussing. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, this means that even during the stage of having tendency to commit sin, he has a pure heart. I will read the statement again because this needs to be meditated upon. This means that even during the stage of having tendency to commit sin, he has a pure heart. Now, how is this even possible? So where is that purity? Because sin means impurity. How can it parallelly exist? Okay. So in terms of his goal is pure. His willingness to engage is pure in continuous devotional service. His faith is pure, but his conditioning is still impure, and that takes gradual destruction only. So therefore, continuity should be understood in this way, otherwise we will run into irreconcilable roadblocks with respect to then the whole Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as a guiding tool for sadhakas should be given up, because it talks about anya bilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukula. Anyways, I am not practicing it. So which means so my practice should not be guided by Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu because it starts with Uttama Bhakti. Anyway, continuous Uttama Bhakti I cannot practice. So therefore, whether Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is a guiding light for our own practice will also come into question. So therefore, if you see carefully, the word anu should be understood in this way. Otherwise, as Srila Jiva Goswami says, otherwise it would be impossible for a sadhaka to follow, and this will bring in lack of faith in the tenets of bhakti. Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for your patient listening. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.